I'd be interested to see how this all works then, sort of how this works as far as if we jump onto Google. I don't know if you have your browser handy, but I've just typed in Michel Fortin into the search engine just to bring up some results and talk a little bit about the way sort of copywriting's worked into some of your sites. Now I can see, looking on the first page, we start off with your michelfortin.com. There's also a post from your blog. Then we've got the Success Doctor, and then we've also got you can see the image search is coming up there, so I suppose that's a good point to mention, which you talked about, that plugin for your WordPress blog. The importance of having your alt tags and things like that shows relevance, and they're coming up in these complete searches now, universal search rather. And I keep moving down, and there's Twitter, there's Copy Doctor, there's the Copywriter's blog. So on here, it looks like you actually do own quite a few of the positions of number one, and obviously it is your name. But if we start off at the top one, which is your primary site about like your personal site, I want to talk a little bit about the way that you write titles and descriptions, because that's definitely big on what we talk about for on-page SEO and the importance of writing those titles. How do you write your titles and your descriptions?
Well, I've alluded to that earlier on, where I sometimes I will focus on writing a title that gets people to get them to start reading a blog post or an article or something I've written. And very often there's maybe a bit of missing information in there, so it gets them to be curious. There's a bit of intrigue, there's a bit of a newsy aspect to it. But what I mentioned at the beginning of this call, where I use passive voice very often, because, for example, I don't say Michel Fortin's copywriting tips and marketing tips. I say copywriting and marketing tips by copywriter Michel Fortin. So copywriting, marketing tips, copywriter are front-loaded. So my name, and I have the privilege of having been on the internet for a while, and I'm known the way I'm known. So a lot of people actually search for my name. I look at my Google stats and my traffic stats, and people keep searching, and they find my blog through my own name, whether it's Michel Fortin or Michel Fortin. Both names are fine. But what happens is, I tend to put those keywords in the front. Now, it may not necessarily be number one for copywriting tips, but that was not my goal anyways. My goal is that when it appears in the search engines, those words hit them. So when they scan the search results, especially if you're at the top, that's great. But if you're not, when people scan, that hits them. And that's what I really want to do. Now, if you look at some of the blog posts, let me give an example. Today's blog post today, I just put one this morning. It says, headlines that pull, persuade, and propel. Well, rather than saying how to write headlines that pull, or how to pull and propel readers with headlines. Instead, I put the word headlines, because I know that when people look for headline tips, they type in the word headlines. So brilliant. I sort of front-loaded that keyword. And that's sort of the thing that I do. And again, I want to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not an SEO guy at all. However, I do tend to think about how the mind thinks. And the thing that I do is I always try to focus on putting those few keywords. Like I said earlier, there's a really cool study done at a university, and I can't remember where, but I know that it was published by Jacob Nielsen in his magazine, Use It, or Use IT. And he talked about how passive voice, or front-loading those keywords, are so important, because eye-tracking studies have proven that when people scan a page, or when they type in words in the search engine, they will type in, or they will look for, or they'll scan for, and they'll stop at those two first words, especially the 2, 3, or 4 maximum, but those 2 first words are so crucial. And so if you have like copywriting tips, or if you have insomnia cure, or if you have energy boost, those are important because you're putting those keywords that people are actually looking for. But in my particular titles, in my particular blog post, like I said, I tend to do that. but I also tend to use it in such a way where it drives people into the blog post. I'll give you an example. If I write a post on five of my best SEO copywriting tips, I'll say boost search engine traffic using these 5 tips, ... And so the boost and all that, the keywords are front loaded, but I didn't mention what the tips are. I say these 5 tips as if you have to go into the article to know what those 5 tips are. So I use a bit of curiosity, intrigue, sometimes half-stated truth or half-stated statements where I start an idea and I use ... at the end, the ellipse at the end, just so that people are driven into the blog post to read. Because my major point, my major goal is to get people into my blog post, into my site. And, SEO is sort of an afterthought, but it's especially important to get people to interact with me and to buy my stuff.